As I wake up, my throat is dry. I think about life, I think about the truth. Is it always hidden there from our view? Who controls the truth? Who controls the truth? Who controls the truth that I consume? Who makes the decision for me now? I can't believe what I see on the TV screen. I can't believe what I hear on the radio channels. And it makes me sad. I tell myself I am imagine everything, I imagine everywhere. I tell myself I imagine everything, I imagine everywhere. Do you believe what you read? Do you know what it means? Do you? Do you believe what you know? Do you know what you think you know? For those tuning in, good or bad, this is live. You can hear it okay? Do you believe what you wanna say, what you wanna say? Hey. Do you believe what you read on your TV screen? Do you believe? Ha! I messed up my own thing. Hi everybody, how are you? We are live. Let me turn off the effect here because I don't need it. I can speak without reverbs and things. It's just nicer to sing with them. Good evening. Welcome to, Q23. So funny sometimes. So let's see. Wow, all over the world. It's so nice to see all of you, really. Especially Lalo, Michael, Fega, all the usuals are there. Eric, Lalo, how are you? Anna, who else I've got here? Oh my God, so many people. Gonzalo, ¿cómo estás? I've got the crew from Peru, Buenos Aires. It's all good. Texas, I'm good. As you may know or may not know, last week I did not broadcast. It's been a rough ride the last couple of weeks. So I'm going to change things up a little bit tonight. It is going to be the second part of the Hope album stuff. Although, to be honest, there wasn't much left. So tonight I'm going to float back and forth in time a little bit. So for those that don't know, I lost a really, really, really good friend. Not to the Rona, but nonetheless, who was a really important human being for me. And last week, that news literally cut me in half. So I didn't broadcast last Friday. It was a little hard for me to think about broadcasting or doing anything last week. And even 2 weeks later, it's still a little hard to talk about it, but it's gotten easier because, as he would say, oh, fuck off, just do it. That's the way he would do it. So, because that's what he would say, and I could hear him on my shoulder. He goes, oh, don't waste time talking about that shit, mate. That's how he would do it. But for those of you who don't know, my friend Chris Brooks and I, we worked together for a long time. After a lot of the label fiascos, anythingbox went from being on Epic to being independent, and then even that was fraught with some danger. I had a situation with the IRS. Yes, I did, which actually forced me to take work. And so I had to go to work for a living. And I hadn't done that since I was a kid. So that was a really weird thing to happen. But anyway, I'm getting ahead. It was when I got my first job since high school that I met Chris Brooks. And he literally changed my life. And he had a big hand in some really important decisions in life. He kind of kept my sanity, and that's really hard to do. If you really know me, you realize how hard that is. Steve might know. But he understood my very complex personality. And one of the things that I'm always going to be grateful for was good advice, especially the good advice. But most of the time, the good advice went something like, just fuck it. So, just fucking do it, mate. So anyway. So I'm going to start things off with Particle Beam from Universe before we get back into the Hope album a little bit. Particle Beam goes into Welcome to the End. So I'm going to play both. But I'm going to play Particle Beam in particular first so that you can hear his voice. His voice comes in at the end of it. On the Universe album, he introduces the album and closes it, which is something I always loved his voice, by the way. Sorry, I'm going to turn on the light here for a minute. There we go. Now I can see better. I always loved Chris's voice. He had that perfect British announcer from the BBC voice, and I always wanted to record him and put him on a record, and he, of course, wouldn't have it. So one day I went up to him and I said, look, you're going to be on this next album. I don't care what you say. I'm going to record you, and that's that. And he's like, I won't. I'm like, yes, you will. I won't. So I followed him around with a little recorder, and he's like, get away from me, get away from me. And I was like, no, you're going to record it. This is what I want you to say. And he looks at the paper. He goes, what? Whoa, 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 whoa. And he just reads it off. And I'm like, thank you. And I got it, which was, you know, an amazing thing. Of course, he got it on the first try, right? And I wound up recording him, and we wound up doing some really funny things together. And he was actually able to record us once proper, and I'll play that too. But we'll start things off. I'm going to start with Particle Beam, and we'll go right into Welcome to the End from The Universe is Expanding by anythingbox. Meanwhile, I'll look at your comments.
Good evening, all you lonely people. You're listening to The Doctor on KRTX, the last radio station on Earth. For the next commercial-free hour, you'll be listening to our featured group. This is anythingbox.
Welcome to the end. The universe expands. Everyone is glad as the sun descends, and your self-esteem comes back from where it's been. We are all indebted to everything it brings. You know how everything is connected, reflected now.
Ooh, forgot about that little bit in the end. Those were the clever bits, as he used to call it. Brooks used to always find it funny that I like things to be clean, but I like to distort them. So he had a hard time understanding that concept, but he got into it. After a while, he got into it because he would give me little ideas like, so maybe if you do this, but I would never do that. I'm like, I will. And I would do it. So, hi to the latecomers. I see a few of you just arrived. We're going to talk about hope. We're going to talk about universe and a slew of other things, actually. So, so last week was rough, but also was because I had all these things happen at once. The last bits of my surgery stuff is almost over, so I had to deal with that last week too, which was, I mean, it's not a big deal, but it's a big deal in that it becomes a permanent thing. So anyway, I'm digressing, getting away from the subject at hand so that I could avoid feeling sad. But anyway, so I was looking at a picture, and yeah, 1992-ish. Look at this one. So I don't know if I showed that last week, but this is what I'm missing right now. I am missing that. And I honestly don't know when it's coming back for me, but I do miss this. And it was one of those conversations that I had with Brooks about a month ago, which was I miss shows a lot. And, you know, he just said, you know, you got to keep going, man. So in that spirit, right? So we're going to talk about hope a little bit. Like I said, we're almost at the tail end of that story. I just think that last week we wound up getting a little bit, it became too long-winded and we wound up forgetting where we were. But I wanted to read you something interesting that I found. So as it turns out, I found another entry in my book. And yes, I need my glasses for this. Oh, the illusions. Here we go. It's actually harder to read my writing in the dark. Usually I don't even really need glasses, but anyway. So this one's dated December 10th, 1992. And so that you realize what's happened during that time, December 7th is Donya's birthday. So the album was finished basically 3 days after her birthday in 92. And it actually started on my birthday. So it says, the Hope album has taken us from September 6th up to December 10th of 1992 to record. At times, it seems as though we worked on the record for 24 hours a day, an eternity. I think I might have read this before. I don't know. The proud feeling that comes over me when I listen to transitions makes it worth it. Losing Worth wasn't a loss at all. Now I realize that if I hadn't lost Worth, I wouldn't have found Hope. And to me, it's a great album. And I'm not trying to be arrogant. I simply feel more like a realized artist and not a manipulated doll. It isn't perfect, far from it. I'm paraphrasing that part. But it's human. And that is what carries it. So what I get from my own notes is that anytime that you lose something and you think you've suffered a great loss, obviously that loss hurts. And I get that. Of course I get it. Especially in 2020. I mean, who hasn't lost something? But at the same time, we gain perspective. We gain knowledge of ourselves. We get to look inward And hopefully out of the ashes of all that pain, we come up with good things. So I don't know if I don't remember what I showed or didn't show because it was 2 weeks ago. So if I repeat a few things, sorry. But the artwork for Hope was very different than what I had planned on Worth, and it was very different from the Peace album. It was a little happier, right? So here's a postcard that we put out back in 1993. And this postcard and some of these other things I'm going to show you tonight they had a very big impact on the way things were going to go in my visual art and everything. So I don't regret all the bad stuff that happened so much with Epic. Sometimes I get angry about it, or like, I'll get upset about the contractual issues and things of that nature. But I think I'm pretty good at putting things in perspective and then later building from there. So I always try to tell people that I meet, and take whatever the tragedy is and learn to turn it into something that makes sense, because to dwell on it isn't going to help. So when you lose a friend, you got to celebrate their life, not just mourn. In my own case, I did a lot of mourning last week, but I also did a lot of soul searching, and I got off my ass and decided I would get a better routine, and I have been sticking to that routine every single day now, and things are looking better on that side. So it's good to get a perspective, on where you are. So anyway, I'm going to play an interesting version of a song. It's an instrumental, and while I do that, I'll look at your comments and I'll answer some questions. But before I'll play this, and then I'll come back and tell you the story. But this is called "Life Was Fun," not "Life Is Fun" from the Hope album, but "Life Was Fun." And it's my first bit of scoring that I did, and it was actually for a movie. But here we go. Oops, that's not it. Kill the mood, Claude. That was Life Was Fun. the movement in the music, as you probably noticed, takes a little bit of a darker side to the song that everybody knows. Around the year is going to be all messed up, but a few years after Hope came out, it started to gain traction where oddball radio stations would play it in different parts of the world. Sorry, let's turn on more lights. Why not? More lights, more lights. The more lights, the better. So I was starting to get a lot of attention from filmmakers after Hope, which was a first for me because I hadn't gotten any of that type of attention during the first two records. But for some reason, this particular album started to get some attention in those circles. So one of the first opportunities I got was to do a little bit of scoring, although the score didn't actually make it to the movie, but the song Life is Fun did. It was for a movie called Mo. And it was the first time that I actually had been part of a real film. And I say that because I went to the premiere in Beverly Hills and I got to, sit in the audience on the screening, and it was so much fun. So Hope actually brought with it a lot of interesting opportunities, but it wasn't without challenges, as is the Anything Box way. Nothing goes as specifically planned, right? So I'm going to tell you what happened with the IRS and what wound up getting me into having to go to work at a music store. So we finished the Hope album again in December of 1992. And because we were still signed to an agency, and for those that don't know what that is, agents get you gigs. The record company puts out your records, agent gets you gigs. Those are the different, there's many different layers of, management, but our agency was great and we were really happy with it. So of course, what we thought was, when we put this record out, we still have our agents, so we're going to get like awesome tours and we're going to sell records and we're going to be independent. We're going to be fine. Well, not really. So the first call to the agency was basically they said to us that we should not put a record out in December because that's when the music industry shuts down. And to avoid January, we were going to try to shoot for a February release date. So we had to hold off the record, our own record. But that gave us time. We were going to set up 12 inches and, that kind of thing. So what you see, what happened was that it took a little more time then. Oh, I'll just show you the damn thing. What started off as a normal CD, which was going to be just, your standard jewel case kind of thing, because we had a little more time, I did some research on cardboard and different aspects of packaging because I wanted everything to be different. So here's the Hope album. This one is one of the few that I have left. I kept a few for myself. There's the back. This is before the age of computers, but as you can see, it's cardboard. There's no plastic. And what we had done is we'd put our signatures. I had scanned all our signatures so that it looked like everyone who got one was pre-signed. The inside had Danya's artwork in it, which is these two really beautiful paintings, which are probably the only two she's ever done, because I think she was starting to get into it, and I had to kind of encourage her to put this on here. And then, of course, that one, in the back. The beginnings of Orange Works. But let me show you something. I think I have it here. Let me see if I don't mess this up.
Buenas noches, somos Anything.
I forgot to turn on the microphone for that section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a song and I'll have that up there. But what you were just looking at was the original painting as it was done on board, a piece of cardboard. I think it was about yay big. And Robert, my friend Robert, owns that painting right now. So I did that. And this design wound up being the design. It cost us a lot more money in the end. But we were confident, we're like, yeah, it's going to come out in February. We're going to be fine. Everything's going to be great. It's not the way it always works, You get hit with, punch here and there, and you got to, get up. But meanwhile, I will play a song, and I will come back after the song. This is one of my favorites off the album. And there was something I found in this book. Yeah, that's right. It was in here somewhere. Let's see. So this is from 1992. So look, there is the written running order, the final running order. As you can see, it did not deviate much from that. I actually think it's exactly the running order. So what we're going to do is play that song. Let's put some visuals on and we'll play the song.
Blue little rose, you are crying.
So that was Blue Little Rose. Straight off the album there. So what's interesting, I was going to find the notes and read them, but it wouldn't make any sense because I'm going to give you an example of why I can't read these notes. I think it behooves you to see this for yourself. This is what my notes look like sometimes. So you try reading that. And that's just the good stuff. It's basically like, I think I've got something, and then I don't have something, and then I have something, and I go back and I don't have something. This is before the computer, so my revisions were literally over the page. Because, writing the same thing over and over again wasn't going to work. But I digress. So when we mixed that song, I discovered a very technical thing, which was that I could have some of the synths do auto panning inside the synth itself. So that meant that all the songs on the album had to be revisited. And we had to go and see if we could make this happen on the rest of the songs, because originally, and like all people who get into recording in the first time, you either pan things center, or you go here, or you go here, or you might do one of these where you pan it across the stereo field. But it's harder to do something if, unless you have extra pairs of hands where you're like, I want you to keep, doing one of these, left, right, left, right. So we did a little bit of that where basically Danya and I, with Gary's help, when we would mix the songs, we would have like a chart. And I don't know where that photo is now, but we had a pretty big board, and all of us had to take turns and follow notes as to what was going to be muted, what was going to be panned. But on Blue Little Rose, we discovered that we could actually create auto pans inside the MPC, and that was the first use of our automation skills. So we were like, oh, we can do this. We can have the little bells do this and not worry about it. So we went back and we had to redo Hope, Rise, every single day, everything all over again, just to revisit those sections. So there's a lot of work that went into it. But again, we had time. So long story short, 1993 hits. We are now in the next year, and the CDs are on the way. And I'm making my promo list, because for the first time, we have to be our own promo people. We weren't used to this, because obviously when we were on Epic, that really means you go to a meeting and 10 people tell you what magazines they're going to hit and talk to, and what interviews they're going to try to get for you, which, by the way, they never got it right to begin with, but that's a story for another day. But we wanted to do it right, so we had our own list of, these are the people that we met, these are the writers that we love. So I found this list, but what's really sad is that I look through this list and I'm going to read them, and wherever you are, you'll probably recognize some of these. And I would say that 90% of them are gone. They don't exist anymore. Isn't it weird, like how time changes things? So this is the promo list for Hope. I'm gonna read you these, and then we'll get into a video. So these are the magazines that we were gonna send the Hope album to for reviews and things like that. DMR, or Dance Music Reaction, Street Sounds, Reflex, Musical Express, Ray Gun, Pulse, Dance Culture, Section 6111, Request, LA Reader, New City, Village View, LA Weekly, Alternative Press, The Stranger, Spin, BAM, Buddy Press, The Prospector, Project X, Pop Culture Press, Musician. I think that one's still going, but that's like a mainstream. The Wrap Up, Center Stage, San Antonio News, Cake, Herb, Mean Street, Venice Magazine, Music Connection, Keyboard. I know that one's still going. City Paper, DJ Times, Billboard, of course, Village Voice, Option, Technology Works. And these are the funny ones. I actually have it written here as like maybe. Sassy, Details, People Magazine, The Aquarian, Blitz, ID, Zone, Vera Krant, that was in Holland, No Trends, that was in Germany, Blah Blah Blah, that was actually a magazine, and Music Review. Those were the magazines we had contacts with when we were on Epic. And I don't think any of them reviewed Hope. And it was like so heartbreaking because we were like, I can't believe it. All these magazines talked about us, but no one's wanting to talk to us. And that's when I realized what was going on. Once you're on a major, the assumption is that there's going to be money behind you. And when there's money behind a band, everybody wants to talk to you. The minute you're independent and you're not on a major anymore, it's like everyone does this. They're like, I don't want to see you, but I can't tell you this in front of you. I just will ignore all your calls. So we were like, what are we going to do now? No reviews. And we were still, touring and things like that. But then things took a turn for the worst. So as we were getting ready to release the album, our agency dropped us. They're like, well, you're not on a major, and it doesn't look like you want to get on another major. So we'll give you a month. If you get on another major, we'll stay with you. But otherwise, we can't stay with you. Talk about a blow. So you're faced with that prospect of, what? No gigs? And 2,000 CDs gonna sit in my garage? And, you don't know what to do. So 1993 is very odd because I don't think we had that many gigs. They're few and far between. And towards the end of 92 and the very beginning of 93, we had a few gigs, but it was not the same, kind of energy because we were just lost to the world. So it was a really weird time. We have this album we're really happy with, but nothing going on, right? So anyway, so I'm going to play a video. This is from a place called J. Larkin's. It's in Texas. Someone in Texas helped me out because I'm trying to remember what city they're in. I think it's Dallas, right? Dallas? But this is Where is Love and Happiness? And the funny thing about this is that it's a new song. And people are still wondering, okay, sorry, got to back up yet again. So remember that I was telling you about how we were promoting the Worth album, but yet it wasn't coming out. So we had done enough promotion that World Without Love had managed to get on the charts in Texas, which was fantastic, right? So everyone is wanting us to play a single or release a single that doesn't exist. Does that sound familiar, Mikey? World Without Love is a single. But so everyone wants us to play this single and, of course, buy this album that they can't get. And now here we are with a new album that they don't know about, and we're trying to sell it. So it was a mess. So this is the video, and Danya is trying to explain that we fired our record company to the crowd, and we get into, you know, a song. So here we go. I'm going to pop it in.
And
How's it going, you guys? We have a lot of new stuff for you guys today.
new and old, new too.
Yeah. When's the new stuff coming out? Well,
Look at the record rack and new beat in about 4 weeks.
4 weeks, guys. So we're gonna play some new stuff off our third album, and of course, you guys heard of Rolling Out Loud too. Well, you'll probably get that. You can get 4 weeks if you really want to have it. We fired our record company because they took so long to get the stuff out. So he said, bye, you're fired. Because we
So, yeah. I'm still hearing echoes. Okay, there we go. That's better. So yeah, I think I was in error in thinking that's 93. I believe that's 92 still. And the reason I think this is that the lyrics, I think I made up the second verse along the way. And you're going to see that in the next video because I'm going to play it one more from that show. So we're still working it out. So it must have been around December or even January. So we must have not had the whole album in our hands yet when this came out. But so yeah, so we're going nuts, right? Trying to do what we can. And it was around this time that we started to put Worth out on our own on cassette. So we would be selling the cassettes at shows, which someone I think just mentioned it. Someone bought the Worth cassette at a show in Fort Worth. Rick. Hi, Rick. So yes, we were selling the Worth cassettes at shows, bootlegging our own crap. Although it wasn't really because it was ours. We just, it was just us being very anarchistic at the time. So yeah, so we're trying to get the album going and, things aren't going the way we planned, but amazing things did happen. So I need to give you a little update here. So most of the live shows things that I've been playing, where it comes to these shows, it's stuff that fans would send to me. So once in a blue moon, I would get a DVD in the mail, and this is more, we're talking in the 2000s, late 90s, is when I started to see some of this stuff. So there's a lot of shows that I've got VHSs of that I'm sure have more, encompass more of the 1993, 94 stuff. So I got a machine or a device so that I could do transfers. And I can do that. I know how to do it. I just didn't have it. So it's on the way. And I'm going to start digging through some of those VHSs and find some gems in there. Because there's one or two that I remember that were really good. So I'm going to try to get more of those. And, we'll play them in the future Quaranstreams. But yeah, DVDs, as far as DVDs and all that stuff, I don't have a lot. And they're not of a quality that I would release, per se. But what I think I'm going to do is eventually they're all going to wind up on YouTube, and then you guys can do whatever you want, download them and make your own DVDs, whatever you want to do with them. I don't care. So I'm going to bypass Electrodelica completely on this Quaranstream because Electrodelica has its own very interesting story, and I want to really cover it. So we're not going to talk about Electrodelica. I can't even say my own record. We're not going to talk about Electrodelica all that much. So I'm going to go back to 93. We're going to play another song from that show. This is a very new song at this moment, which you can tell by the lyrics that I haven't gotten it. I haven't gotten it all together yet. Which is sort of like what if you tuned in before 8 o'clock. What I was doing was I was playing a track that I've been working on that has no lyrics yet. And usually what I do is I do stream of consciousness stuff, like whatever comes into my head. So for this song that you're about to hear, I had some ideas of what it was going to be, but I didn't have all the words straight in my head just yet. And you'll recognize the song, but it's just funny to me the way that it sounds on this particular show. So I'm going to play that next. I'll read your comments and I'll answer your questions, and we'll come back.
Go for it.
This is the
dark side. Like a broken sick machine, playing over all the parts of a road to you.
Took me a little bit of a lag there. So yeah, that was Rise. And what I actually really like about that version is the end. I wish that would have been that way on the album. I wish we would have listened back to those live tapes, because I think that would have made a really good ending on the album. Like, you know, that extra screamy bit. I kind of like it. I think I did it more than once like that too. I mean, I do it that way now live because I got used to doing it that way, which is one of those funny things that happens, you know. But I've got two questions here that I thought were interesting. well, one's more of a comment, but I just wanted to read it because it was so nice. From Dave on Facebook. I learned about hope through a mixtape by Chicago area DJ. My friends and I made our way to the train to an indie record store to find it. I have this very vivid memory of picking up the CD off a stack on the shelf and holding it in my hands. Headphones and Discman plus hope equals high school. It's a beloved classic album for us. Thank you. And I love stories like that. I love the idea that music connects us in that way. Just like you have that memory, Dave, I have the memories of all the albums I've ever loved in the same way. You know, I can remember every single record will trigger memories in my head about being with friends or, you know, which is an amazing thing. So I hope that keeps happening. I hope I can still do that. I hope that our time here that we're spending together is valuable in some way, and that you know, when all these dark times pass, we can remember and say, at least we had this time together. Not saying that I have anything to do with it. I'm actually saying it more for you guys with me. I will be happy when 2020 ends and recedes into the dark, deep underbelly of history, but I will always remember how happy you guys made me to, you know, come on and play these old things for you guys. So, so someone wrote, Daniel from YouTube, he's saying, can you talk about or touch on what was the main sequencer the band relied on during the live shows? What was the most difficult in getting the desired live sound? Well, that's actually easy, and it's not going to be something people want to hear, but in the early days, I'm going to answer that question. I'm not going to dodge it, but I want to preface it. In the very early days of the band, we played everything. The ESQ was sequenced live. I had my Juno. I would trigger sequences on the ESQ. Unmute and mute tracks was the way that we would bring things in and out. Mikey, when Mikey was in the band, would call up effect settings. He would call up drum machine settings. It was pretty crazy how much stuff we were actually able to play live, but we couldn't perform. I was buried in keyboards. You could barely see me, and you couldn't do anything. By the time we got to Hope era and all that stuff, that's the DAT era, let's face it. Everybody that was doing electronic music was having DAT backups because it's digital gear. It doesn't sound any different than hitting play on the sequencer and letting it play, other than something could go wrong, of course. But so it was DAT with live stuff on top. And in the early days of that, it was very little. But we graduated to having a DAT on stage with us, which sometimes proved to be cumbersome. But it added the ability to have consistency, which is something we had missed for so many years, is to have something that was consistent. So that worked for a long time. From there, we switched to, of all things, mini disc. So a mini disc was our sequencer for a while. What we used to call our drummers. And then obviously then the computer, which is a lot easier, and you can leave the tracks open, and you know, you can now go in and decide you're going to mute this and play that, which is much better. So in the end, that's the best way, in my opinion. But yeah, back then it was DAT, which kept things clean. But it also freed me up a lot because I was able to jump around, move, and perform, which is something I wasn't able to do before. But I missed it. So obviously, I came full circle, right? So it's knowing the rules before you break the rules, I guess. Does that make any sense? I don't know. So that's how we did it in '93. which was a good thing actually, because it would have been terrible without it. We would have died as a band. Like, I mean, the MPC, as much as I love my MPC, those things were volatile. I lost an entire album, which is another record we'll talk about another day, recovered. But yeah, I lost an entire album once on the MPC. And it wouldn't load the backups. It wouldn't load anything, not even the drum sounds. And I was so heartbroken by that. So thank goodness we had some deaths. But all right, so now I'm gonna go fast forwarding again. As I said, we'll get into Electrodelica on another occasion. We may touch on it next week. Maybe I'll start that conversation next week, because Electrodelica is a fun record too, and it deserves some attention. But the story that I wanted to tell for tonight, and to, talk more about my friend Brooks, is that after Hope, we did manage to tour. We never actually found another agent. It took years before we found another agent. But some would say, you don't have one now. Well, I do, but not in the way that I had when I was, on Epic. But I digress. Sorry. But I can hear Brooks right on my shoulders going, get on with it, mate. Get on with it. Don't bore them. So I had a run-in with the IRS, and this is after Electrodelica. So I want you to set the scene. So Hope didn't go anywhere. Although I shouldn't say that. It actually sold. It actually sold quite a bit. And it made us quite a bit of money. But unfortunately, we didn't know anything about corporate taxes at that time. And the IRS came after me, which was really like, that's the last thing you need, right? You don't have a record company, you don't have an agent, and now the IRS comes after you and takes all your money. They cleaned out my bank account. They took my kids' any college funds that I had set aside for them. Everything, like literally one morning I woke up and I was dead broke. Like there was nothing, and I mean nothing. So I had to go fight the IRS with nothing more than a fax machine in the library, which was not fun. And the interim period was I had to get a job. And that's how I wound up working in a music store, which is really a bizarre set of circumstances. But that's where I met Brooks. So that's so that you know where we met. And one of the funniest things about being there was that I was coming into it from a recording, perspective. I'd done records already, so I knew about recording. So obviously I wound up in the recording area, and that's how Brooks and I became friends. And we would challenge each other on various recording techniques all the time. So I learned a lot of chops when I was there. It took a while to get out of that hole, and I had to climb back up. So again, I'm going to tell you this because it does resonate with me with all the stuff that's going on right now, which is I know what it's like to be at the rock bottom. I may be at the rock bottom again. I'm facing it, because you gotta fight it, any way that you have to fight it. So the climb out of that was long and arduous, but during my time there, I got to hang out with Brooks a lot. And one day, so now we're going to fast forward. I'm going to take you into the Universe album, because that's how we're going to, wow, it's 9/11. 9/11, oh my God. we're going to close it on universe, basically. So that ends, no, it doesn't quite end the hope thing. I have another 2 things to talk about before we get into stuff, but I digress. None of this was planned, as you can see. It's not like I have something where I wrote, I'm going to talk about this, and then we'll do this, and then we'll do, no. It's not like that. But, so this song happened because I was actually showing someone how to record. And I was trying to explain multi-tracking. And I remember just picking up a guitar off the shelf, and I was going to just play a weird little riff into it. And right after I played the little riff, and I showed the woman, how to, do an overdub with the guitar, Brooks walks over and goes, "That's a song, mate. I think that's a hit song. That's a single." And he walks away. And Universe is probably the poppiest of all the abox albums. And this is probably the poppiest song we've ever done. Personally, not one of my favorite songs, but I appreciate how much we had learned up until this point. But that riff is the exact riff. So I literally borrowed the multi-track to take off the guitar part that I had written that day. And that's the actual guitar part that wound up on the album. So I'm going to play that right now, and then you'll get an idea of what song I'm talking about.
Found a way to speak against the opposition. Yet my brain feels the same. I'm wasting time while they're wrapped in flames. All I have to give is my self-expression, pressed on the back of my expectation of my goal in my soul. I gotta have a moment to sense this soul. Getting nowhere blind and fast. Look out, kid, 'cause life don't last. Think you got a line on something new. All you really get on the space age blues. Don't have the motivations for techno innovations. I have the space age blues. My girl is gone and my old man got stolen Sunday. I have the space age blues.
I got to say what I feel so strong. Never had a doubt we would end all wrongs. Streets are filled with angry suckers trying to pull a dime from their empty pockets. Meanwhile, halfway across the world, some poor kid gets shot down cold.
By and large, it's just old news,
'Cause everybody's got the space age blues.
Don't have the motivations for techno innovations. I have the space age blues. My girl is gone and my old man got stolen Sunday. I have the space age blues. I have the space age
Yeah. Another one of those clever bits. So yeah, Space Age Blues, which came from a little riff that had Brooks not walked by and heard it, the whole song would have probably been not, wouldn't have happened. So thank you for that, Brooks. Even though it's not one of my favorite songs or my favorite periods, but thank you. So I'm going to play one of the only, and regrettably, and I say regrettably because one of the coolest thing, I don't know where Steve is. Sorry, answering a question. Mikey just said, where's Steve? I don't know. He called earlier, so I'm going to find out. He probably got a job, so he probably couldn't make it tonight. I'm going to try to call him right after this is over, because it's rare not to have Steve here. Or Robert. I didn't see Robert today either. So, yeah, one of the things I do regret with me and Brooks is that we didn't get to record a lot of things together, because I would go over to his place, and I'm talking years after, as early as last year. I would go hang out with him and my friend Pete, and we would go and just drink some wine, put on an album, and that was our evenings. We just enjoyed ourselves doing that. Talk about music and recording, what's new, what's not new, So he was very encouraging of my returning to music full time and all that other stuff that that I was doing. So one of the funny things that we wound up working on together, the one time, was I called him up and I said, hey, we want to try doing a video, and I want to record the instruments live. I want to have everything live. And will you do it at your place? And he's like, sure, of course. He goes, but I can't video you. I don't have a camera. And I'm like, I have a camera, although it's crap. So the video, unfortunately, is horrendous. But the idea is there, and you can see that the three of us, and I'm saying Paul, Danya, and I, are very happy there. And Danya makes a mention of the doctor, as we used to call him. So this is going to be Carmen in Spanish. We did the two versions at his place, and he recorded us. Recently, I actually found the multi-tracks. I guess he had sent them to me, and I had not noticed. I think I have the multi-tracks, but that's for another day. I have to go through them and listen to them. But for now, I'll tell you what went down. So it was a dumb little camera, one of those really $100 jobs that they're crap. But that's all we had. We went to Brooks's place. We set up. It was my VSS 30 or a Casio, one of the two, but it was that. We had a circuit bent talking teacher. Paul was playing guitar. I was playing the drum machine, the keyboard, and Donnie was playing a tambourine and singing. And he mic'd us all up. And I think the whole entire process of us miking it together probably took us 15 minutes. We didn't spend a lot of time on it, but because the idea was a straight to video thing. But we recorded the song in both Spanish and English. And so I see people are talking about other things here, like vaccines and whatnot. Okay, it's funny. Ain't doing a chip vaccine. But anyway, so Brooks recorded this, and it was the only session that we actually did with him. And I wish we would have done more, because one of the things I had always wanted to do with Brooks was to record my vocal sessions at his place. Something I intended to do with Distances, but it didn't happen. And it was something I was planning to do with some of the newer things. which he would have been excited about. So regrettably, that didn't happen. But I'm going to play Carmen, and you guys will see where we were, which was Brooks's room. And here we go.
Go for it.
Buenas noches, somos anythingbox.
Sí,
Soy Claudio
Soy Pablo.
soy Dania.
y vamos a cantar la canción Carmen en castellano. Nuestra
la
nueva
primera
versión,
vez?
por la primera vez aquí en YouTube.
Para ustedes, gracias.
Para ustedes. Muchas gracias. Ready, Paul?
Man
It's
happy.
like-
We're in this like space here. Yes. He's the man.
1,
Doctor.
2, 3, 4. ¿Qué voy a hacer si no sentir esas noches junto a ti? Los recuerdos de mi gran amor. Carmen se fue, es difícil entender. He perdido fe en la realidad. Ella sufría su vida en dolor, las sombras de su mundo lleno de ilusión. Ella se fue y nunca sin saber que no dejó de amarla. Quisiera ver el camino que siguió. Si piensa en el pasado y ha encontrado amor. Quisiera ver el camino que siguió. Si piensa en el pasado y ha encontrado amor. El amor. El amor. All together now. Carmen, las voces lloran. Carmen, Gracias.
Anythingbox es una banda internacional dirigida por Claudes, nacido en Rosario, Argentina, Daniel Morales, nacido en Nueva York, sus padres del Ecuador, y Paul Reinders, nacido en California, con raíces en Holanda. La música es pop, en una manera surrealista y experimental. En escuchar esa música, uno puede entender por qué hay tantas especulaciones si los miembros de Anythingbox son viajadores del tiempo. Si le preguntan a este reportero, yo diría...
It's okay.
It's good though.
I can see it scrawled on the empty face, and I feel the hurt.
It's in the words you say, they make me want to. Oh, let's just start over now.
Scream out to the world for taking life for granted, and I know
You are by my side when I turn to hear you cry. I am so afraid of living in oblivion. I am so afraid of living in oblivion. Bum, ba-dum, ba-dum, 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 bum. I'm playing the wrong song, huh?
living in oblivion. Hey, that was good.
Como arigato, Mr. That's for Steve. Right?
That's for Steve.
That's all you get, though.
So, oh, God, I love those guys. So I'm going to answer two questions and then, we'll wrap it up. But so I wasn't just hitting a drumstick onto the floor. I was actually playing an instrument. That stick is actually what they used to call a noise drum. It gets connected to this little box that basically sounds like, I know I have one. It's around here somewhere. Crap. That. So it would either make that sound or that sound or that sound. So not all three, one of them. So I picked that sound. And I would, when you hit it against a surface like a carpet, it would trigger that sound, and we had a mic on it. So there's a drum machine that's a very old Roland drum machine, and I'm hitting that stick to make the psh sound. Yes, the Domo Arigato Mr. Roboto was for Steve, who's not with us tonight, which is funny. But so the thing that's interesting about that video that you can't see is that Brooks gave us all a shot. So he's like, he gave us all a shot of whiskey or something. And so all three of us don't really drink. So I think the three of us were completely tipsy, which is really funny, which is probably why we did that end bit. I don't think that we would have done that without the alcohol being involved. But yeah, I miss my little noise drum. I messed it up somehow. But it's one of those pieces I really loved. But thank God I have the samples. But yeah, I missed that thing. So I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to play two quick songs and in succession because they belong together and that's how they were arranged on the album. If you have Universe, you know that Chris Brooks starts off the album and he also ends it. the premise was that there's a radio broadcast. Many people don't know this, so I'm going to tell you. But the premise was that a radio broadcast, the very last radio broadcast on Earth, is basically sent out into space. And it's this hour, the lonely hour with the doctor. And on that particular week, it was anythingbox's turn to be on it. And he plays, he basically plays this hour of music, and he signs off as the last radio station on Earth goes away. That was the premise of the entire Universe is Expanding album. So this is how he ends it off. I'm just going to play that part real quick because it's funny.
We hope you've been enjoying tonight's featured group, Anything Box, as we wrap things up with a final song. Next week on The Lonely Hour with the Doctor, we'll be presenting the notorious BOX. Thank you and good night.
That last bit when he says next week on it will be the notorious BOX, that's actually Gary. So we were planning to go to his house and do a recording of something where Gary would be there, but that never actually happened, unfortunately. But all right, I'm going to play the last two songs, and after that, it's good night until next week. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. I hope you're good to each other. Stay strong. We need to be strong. The year is almost over. I don't know that we're at the hardest parts yet, believe it or not, but we're going to get through it, okay? Fight the good fight. So here's Brooks telling you about the last song at the end of this song. So I'll play the two and then we'll call it a night.
I heard from the station you're leaving tonight. I knew it would happen someday. Still I feel so numbed. You're going home. The earth seems beautiful, somehow lonely too. Now that we are here, I want time with you. Can't face the night, you're going home. Turn away, walk away, just please don't face me now. Can't you see, there'll be tears just covering my frown. This emptiness is clear, you're going home. Can it be that I loved you always far too long? Could it be the great distance that will keep us cold? Can it be that I'll call your name? You're going home. 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 When I'm floating still, I'll think of your face. And when it rains, I'll be quite the same. My heart won't rest, I've been undone. Can it be that I loved you always far too long? Could it be the great distance that will keep us cold? Can it be that I'll call your name? You're going home.
We hope you've been enjoying tonight's featured group, Anything Box, as we wrap things up with a final song. Next week on The Lonely Hour with the Doctor, we'll be presenting the notorious BOX. Thank you and good night.
Have you heard your reflection and have you listened? As you swim in the ocean, the water it glistens. All the silly games you used to play with all your friends could last a day. Never
I'm part of it. Can't you see it?